All right, it's time to talk basketball. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net. He is Steve Purciello, a longtime educator, vice principal, high school basketball coach, athletic director, and also the host of Celtic Chalk Talk. Celtic Chalk Talk is a pod dedicated to the latest news and opinions surrounding the Boston Celtics from a lifelong fan, Steve. That pod will drop new episodes every Monday, but this is the Shot Clock Pod, the best 24 minutes of random NBA thoughts online anywhere. This podcast was born out of the content of Steve's 13 Rules random NBA thoughts articles, which he publishes weekly. Steve and I have exactly 24 minutes to discuss what's on his mind around the NBA. Today we'll discuss his latest 13 Rules random NBA thoughts article, where he shares his random thoughts after week number 14, officially the halfway mark of the 2025-26 NBA season. Steve, are you ready?
We're ready.
Let's do it. I'll start the timer, and we're off. All right. We start with an old adage. If you've been a fan of the game, you've heard this. I've heard it as long as I've followed the game. Defense wins championships. Not just in basketball, really, but in every major sport. But what's interesting, and you called it out in your article, interesting to me for sure, is that there are numbers to back that up. With only a few exceptions, defense really does win championships. Tell us about that and the numbers that back it up.
I just looked at the ratings or the rankings of defense, and the NBA does a rating or a ranking, and it's not about points given up because some teams might use 20 seconds in a possession, others might use 10, but they all look at it per 100 possessions. And what I looked at was, I just thought about this for a while, and over the last 40 years, which would be pretty much almost to the beginning of the three-point shot to now, how many teams won a title that defended, that were rated greater than 11, I believe it was. And I come up with 4 or 5, and not many. So the thought becomes, naturally, is defense wins. So now my question to you is, then why do teams want Luka, Ja Morant, Trae Young? These are guys reputed they do play on that end of the court, but they're not really trying too hard. So LaMelo Ball, why are teams ready to give away everything when these guys might not lead you to a title?
Yeah. If that's a legit question, I'm happy to answer it, because it takes defense wins championships, but you got to put the ball in the hoop, right? So you need that offensive guy. What I want to do if I'm a GM, I'll take Luka, I'll take LaMelo, I'll take Carmelo Anthony, I'll take those guys 100%. But then I got to be smart enough to build some bigs and some defense, some 3-and-D guys, people that can play to make up for that deficiency. That's why you bring folks like that in.
Let me ask you a question. You named a couple of guys here. Probably played about 25, 30 seasons together, all together. How many titles those three win?
Touche. Well done.
Well, my point is, go back to the Celtic Mavs series 2 years ago. What did Boston do? They pressured Luka, bringing the ball up, made it hard for him. In fact, the Mavs adjusted by having other people bring the ball up. But they also, pretty much, he guarded the ball every play, because now they hunt the weakest defender and make him guard the ball in little screening actions. So you're still, if you have a weak defender, you're going to struggle to win. And I think, in my mind, you're playing the game to win. You're not, you want to draw people, that's nice, but you know what? Last I looked, most of the money these teams are making is from the TV contract. So who cares? Who cares? Yeah, you want to sell out the place, but the money's coming from something else. So to me, the game is changing, and I've said this so many times, but the game is changing. Young, athletic players. There's one more thing on this, and I'll use Luka. And I think Luka's a great offensive talent. However, I'll ask you, you're out there, and you see it more than I do. How many games has Luka missed this year?
Oh, I'd have to look it up.
No, but roughly, just quick.
Yeah, 20%.
Okay. Do you think as he ages, that'll get better?
Likely no.
Okay. The point being, these teams are running, and we're going to talk about Giannis, but these teams are running to get these guys. The best ability is availability. So What are you doing? Get young and talented that will defend, and you can play with these teams. That's where the game is. And that's what you need to figure out and take care of. And by young, I'm talking about young 20s, early 20s, and so on. And they will get better and fit, but they will defend and play hard. That's more important. And yesterday I watched the Philadelphia Knicks game. Paul George is playing for Philadelphia. You wouldn't know it because if you watch the game, you don't see him get the ball or do much of anything. How much is he making? Something ridiculous. 40 million, maybe 30 million, 35, something ridiculous. How often is he playing? Not often. Is he still the great player he once was? No. So what are you doing? You're going to throw money away. I'll sign up. I'll take the money because that's what you're doing. The guy's sitting watching the game. He's not helping your team.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We got a lot to talk about, but I'm going to pat myself on the back. I said 20%. It's 18%. Lucas played in 36 of 44, so pretty much right there. And I also want to leave you with this, and we can't go down this rabbit hole, but I think it's incredibly interesting. Just a quick search of the greatest scorers to win an NBA championship. Listen to this list. They're all phenomenal scorers, but they're also really good defenders.
That's
Michael
right.
Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, okay defender, I think certainly in his prime. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Why is something funny here? They're all Lakers. I didn't hear Bill Russell. I didn't hear Casey Jones.
Bill Russell was not a scorer. I
John
searched the greatest
Havlicek.
scorers. I searched
John
the greatest
Havlicek.
scorers.
I just gave you one. I didn't hear his name.
I just take it up with the internet, man.
Laker champions. And there's not many, but go ahead.
I'm the messenger. I'm the messenger.
Okay, but anyway, let's move on.
It makes your point, right? All of these guys were two-way players.
Yes. No, it's true.
This is why we always have shot clock violations. This is why.
Well,
let's talk. Oh, actually, let's pause right here. If you're still with us after that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We're grateful. We appreciate it. Every comment, every question. Please keep them coming. And if you could subscribe, of course, that would mean the world. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go on to the next topic. Unfortunately, Giannis has had an injury. Let's talk about what that means both for the Bucks and for the teams that were interested in obtaining him. What does that do to them?
We go back to what I said before. Of the first 44 games, he's played 30. He's going to be out for a month at least. That's give or take 13, 14 games. So now you're looking at 30 games he's been out. Think about that. You're going to deal, and you're gambling that he's healthy in the playoffs because he gets hurt all the time. So you're going to give away half your team to get this guy. Yeah, if he's healthy in the playoffs, you got one of the best players in the NBA.
Yeah.
But that's a gamble. And we go back to what I said before. You're paying and you're doing this. Is it worth it? To me, it's not. And by the way, I'm going to just to think about this. How many of these stars that we just talked about will be eligible to be named All-NBA at the end of the year, meaning 65 games? So what is that telling you? LeBron is just about done. I think if he misses one more, he's out. So obviously will be done. Jokic is going to cut it close. These are some of the great players in the league. Right. Reeves, who might have made third team, he's going to probably not make that. And Luka's going to work on it. It's going to be interesting by the time it's over. What are we doing here? That's my point.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, injuries are horrible. Obviously, that 65-game line in the sand kind of changes everything. We've talked about that before. But let's switch from bad news to good news. In a basketball game, forgive me for being silly here, but there's a winner and a loser. But in the latest Boston Celtics versus Detroit Pistons game, it was a really good game between the number 1 and the number 2 team in the East. You saw a win-win. You saw both teams come out with victories. Tell me why.
Detroit had to defend their home court. They had to win that game because if they did, they'd look vulnerable to the rest of the division.
Yeah.
And they did it. They won by a point. Brown missed a shot at the buzzer. Great game. Couple things. For Detroit to win, they've got to muck up every game. They play defense, and they're just physical, and the whistle blows every 30 seconds. That's what they have to do to win. They did that, and they took Boston out of what Boston does, and they beat them. But For Detroit, it's good because they held up being the top team in the league. And that's very important because a lot of people are saying, I think Detroit can be had. For Boston, couple realizations. If Jason Tatum comes back, they're better. They're better. Let's get him back. It's okay to get him back as long as he's healthy. The other thing for Boston, if they can go out and get a legitimate, and Kate has played well, but if they can get a legitimate big, and we talked about Zubats before, but if they get a legitimate big with Tatum, I think they're the favorite to go to the finals. And it gets very interesting. And Boston realized there's no time like the present. Maybe we've got to try to find a big before the trade deadline to take a run at this. We didn't expect this going in. And honestly, if you told me Boston would be in this position they're in, I would have. And it's like in any sport, when you have a chance at a title, you got to go after it. So Boston learned a lot because, again, they would say maybe we're just lucky right now. And, well, they've got something there. So it was good for both teams in that way.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of East Coast games. I watched that game. And when I saw Jaylen Brown go up, I thought it's over. I really thought that shot was going in. That was his shot. He was open. He was well defended, but that's a shot he makes. I thought for sure that was going in. I think it goes in 7 out of 10 times.
The last thing on Jaylen Brown's career, and he's great. He's an MVP candidate right now.
Yeah.
But the last thing on his career, he's got to learn to nail the game down, meaning he's got to become the clutch player that wins the game. He's had a couple chances this year, and it hasn't always worked out. And if he gets that, it's just the things he can do. He's an incredible athlete.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a fun game to watch. They're definitely a good team. And you brought up Zubats. We'll talk a little bit about that when we got the Clippers coming up, and we'll go back to the Celtics when we get there. So we talked bad news with the Giannis injury. We talked good news with a win-win basketball game. Now let's teeter back to bad
By
news.
the way, all roads always lead to the Celtics. Remember that. But go ahead.
Believe me, I know. Unfortunately, more bad news. The Warriors dynasty has been teetering for a while, but it looks like with Jimmy Butler's recent injury, this might be the final blow. Are the Warriors done?
Yeah, but I think the irony of this whole thing is the Kuminga situation.
Yeah.
He wants out. The Warriors now need him.
Right.
Either they trade him and get some asset, something for him, or he plays and scores points, and I guess that'll make the organization and Steve Kerr look bad. So whatever they do is not a good thing. He got hurt in his first or second game back, and I think he missed a game or he's going to miss a game. So that's not a good thing. However, there's a problem. And what do you do with Kuminga? And by the way, even with Kuminga, he's not going to make up for Butler. They're in trouble. They've got one great player, and he's getting old, and not much else.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, when I heard about the injury, it was sad. I think it's unfortunate for the Warriors, certainly unfortunately for Jimmy Butler. Certainly at this stage of his career, does he come back? Is he going to be the same? Obviously, I think he'll come back, but things change for him. But then I thought, yeah, it's an open door for Kuminga. Maybe everything will be okay. But it doesn't look like there's any righting that wrong now. That ship has sailed, and they're likely going to have to move on from him.
Well, but the problem is the market, what they're saying is there's no market. And if there's no market, they got a problem.
Yeah, what I think the GM said, if you've got a desire to be traded, there's got to be a desire for you or something like that, which I thought was harsh. But anyway, on we go. Let's talk about the LA Clippers. All right, this is a team that I covered a few years back, a team that near and dear to my heart because this is the lovable loser. Although they have been great for the last decade plus, this is a team that just cannot seem to get over the hump, no matter how much they try, no matter how much money they throw at the team. They started off horribly this year after a great offseason, but now there's been a resurgence. I mean, we teased Zubats. We'll talk about that for sure. But what do you see at the heart of the Lakers, the Clippers resurgence?
It's fascinating. They were 6-21, and everybody thought maybe they'll get the first draft pick, but now they've gone 14-3, and that's incredible. They're only now 4 games under 500. What I'm amazed about, and we talked about old players. The one person who defies logic is James Harden. He plays.
Yeah.
He plays. He's 36 years old. In this stretch, he's 25.5 points a game, 8.5 assists a game. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a 36-year-old guy who's a
Yeah.
former MVP and a great player. But there's no, like, you see the gradual deterioration with injuries for guys as they age. This guy has defied that. And he's good. The one thing I'll say, if you watch the Clippers, and I saw one of the games they went to overtime, was it with the Knicks or the Nets or whatever? But anyway, the point being, every time down, he just took the ball and it was him. He played one on one and shot.
Yeah.
Not even a pass, just
Yeah.
shot. And
Yeah.
this was over about a 5 or 6 minute span. I don't know if that's good for a team, but he took the game on and they won. I guess it worked. But it's incredible that he's done that, and their defense has gotten a little bit better
Yeah.
since he's been doing what he does.
Yeah, and we got to throw in a resurgence of not resurgence really, but more of the opportunity, the game time, the playing time of Kawhi Leonard, right? Because he's been healthy and he's been playing really good basketball. I think he's got something like 20 plus games in a row, scoring 20 or more. So he's a scorer, he's a defender, he's exactly the kind of players we just talked about, right? He's not the defender he was, but he's still a really good defender. And they've got a legitimate back to the basket big in Ivica Zubac. Now, what they don't have and what they need and what they want is another guard. Right? You talk about Harden, and that's great, but they need a shooting guard. They've got a big in Zubac. They've got a backup big in a guy named Yannick, who is certainly raw, but I don't see the Clippers making a whole lot of noise in the playoffs. They'll probably make it. They'll certainly make the play-in. But I think there's an opportunity for them to move on from someone like Ivica Zubac, who's still young, a walking double, to a team that needs a big. You mentioned the Celtics. That might be a marriage made in heaven.
There's Anthony Simons is out there, and I don't think Boston needs a Zubac. Tone it down a little bit. They need somebody who. One of the problems that with Boston is we turned it into Boston, but one of the problems is Kate is a decent backup and not a bad starter, not good, but a decent starter. But one of the problems is when he plays against thicker players, he struggles because he's not thick. And so they need to go out and get somebody that's big and strong to counter that when they need that against big centers. When they played Utah a couple months ago, Nurkic, who's a journeyman, nice player, but a journeyman,
Yeah.
he scored the winning basket because he just basically muscled Kate out and put the ball back in. So that's part of what the problem might be for Boston, and they could use that. But for Zubac, if you take Zubac away from the Clippers, even if you get a Simons, a shooter, are you getting better?
No, I think the Clippers have got to stop really thinking about now and start thinking about the future. Right now, I think they're relegated to that mid tier. They're going to be good. They might make a noise. They might even beat some teams that they're not expected to beat. They might take Oklahoma City in one game out of four.
Let me ask you this: if you're Oklahoma, San Antonio, Houston, Denver in the playoffs, or would you rather play Portland?
I would rather play Portland
Of course.
because I'll tell you, because the Clippers have got veterans, and when you get to the playoffs, that matters. Portland's a young team, so I would rather play Portland.
Of course.
Yeah,
So the point being, I don't think any of and let's say any of those four teams I mentioned, they play them. That's going to be a 6 game series, and that's going to take something out of you.
yeah,
And you don't want that early.
you're right.
The Clippers still can be a problem for teams.
Yeah,
Is my point.
sure.
And and who knows? Kawhi, he's one of the greats of the last 20 years,
Yeah,
but you don't know. He might come in all healthy and just go off. And Harden is Harden. So it's not like a done thing. And knowing what the Clippers believe in, I don't think they want to go backwards.
yeah,
Trading
no,
Zubats will mean you're going to go backwards.
tough. I can't argue any of that, but I will say they don't raise any banners for Gabe Oklahoma City a tough first round. That's not what Bomber wants. That's not what the Clippers want. They got to think beyond that. We got to go. We're running out of time. But I
No,
want to
it's
do a
okay.
quick shout out to Yannick Conan Niederhauser, who's the Swiss backup,
Right.
who I think is
I've
certainly.
seen him play. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, on we go. We got two more topics, and the clock is winding down. Let's go again. We'll stay with a big kinda. We're going to talk about the Knicks, and the Knicks back. They won a big game against Philly, but again, the big in that game was Joel Embiid. He looked pretty good. 38 points was his total. But are the Knicks back? That's really the topic.
I First of all, I'll say this: in the third quarter, there's a big knock on their defense. In the third quarter, they limited Philly to 13 points, and Philly really couldn't get the ball inside the 3-point line. They had trouble, and the shots they were taking were not good. And the defense was tremendous for that quarter. And I was stunned to watch that. And the Knicks opened up a big lead. But now the negative with that game, down the stretch, the Knicks couldn't make a foul shot.
Hmm.
They were winning by, I guess, I don't something high with a couple minutes left, and it became a one possession game. They really didn't have it down the stretch. Now, for me to say they're back, it would have meant they held that 17-point lead and
Okay.
walked away with a 12-point win. I don't know. I think they're showing signs that they're coming back because that was a tough game in Philly, and they played well enough to win. So it was interesting. By the way, when the Knicks took that lead in the third quarter, what was really interesting, one guy got in foul trouble and was on the bench for much of that quarter. You know who that was? Towns.
Okay.
So the defense picked up. Remember what I always say: two bad defenders, you don't win. They only had one, Brunson, then, because Robinson could. Obviously, he's a protector, a rim protector, and he's an offensive rebounder also. But that's where the game changed in that quarter.
Got it. All right. So we'll put the Knicks in the almost back category. Not
Let me
quite.
just, let me just, and I know we're running out of time. Let me just say one other thing. Philadelphia, everybody's saying because Embiid scored 30, whatever, 38, you
Yeah,
said,
38.
that they're on their way. They're on their
Yeah.
way. I would say this. I'd caution you. They need a rebounder. Embiid just doesn't get off the ground, and he doesn't rebound like he did. And he plays on offense the perimeter. He doesn't really like to go inside anymore. He can shoot. He's always a great shooter. But they need somebody because the Knicks had 16 offensive rebounds in that game. And that's where they lost. Philly lost.
All right. So we got it done. Ivica Zubats for Tyrese Maxey. Done and done. On we go.
Yeah, yeah. No,
On we go.
Maxey's one of the best.
On we go.
Yeah, we
Um,
got.
let's finish with this again on a high note. I think because again, I have a soft spot for franchises that have never won anything, and the Hornets have never won anything. But you and Charles Barkley, Barkley came out and said, "Hey,
He
this is
did.
the team that's going to go to the play-in." That
What?
you both him agreed. You are high on the Hornets. Why?
They got some young talent. They have some players. Brandon Miller's a player, and he's been healthy this year. Josh Green, LaMelo, Miles Bridges, they all can play. In fact, there's talk of trading Miles Bridges and see if they can get a draft pick. Then and Knappel is probably going to come in second in the Rookie of the Year, and his ability to shoot a three has really helped them a ton. So they've got that. In fact, there's been a couple of games where LaMelo down the stretch didn't quite get in much, or they took him out here and there because they've gone with these other players that have done well. Now, the Hornets need one thing. They need a big man. They're hoping that Ryan Kalkbrenner will be that, but he's only playing 20 minutes and he's getting about 8, 9 points, nothing great. So they're hoping he can develop. But if they can, and let's just picture, how about Bridges goes to somebody and they get a big back? Now you're getting interesting because they legitimate big back. Then you're really, it's really interesting. The irony is, by the way, Phoenix wants him, but you know who their big man is? Mark Williams, who played for Charlotte last year. That's not, but that's the irony of it. But Bridges could be the person that brings them the big man to get them to that point. I think they're going to make the play-in game too. They're playing real well. They've beaten some good teams in the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Out west, they went out west and won some tough games, and it's tough to win out there. But so they're getting better, and Charles Lee does a great job with that team. And he's trying to do it like Boston, where they defend from the inside out, meaning he'd rather give up the three than to eat something inside.
Nice. Again, I have a soft spot in my heart for franchises like that. I want to see success in Charlotte, and I want to see success in LA for the Clippers. We already threw out Anthony Simons. We threw out Ivica Zubac, Tyrese Maxey. I know the numbers don't work. It doesn't matter. Now, how about LaMelo Ball? These are three teams. I know the numbers don't work. Forget logic. I'm trying to fix the Clippers. They got a big. They need a guard. There's three good guards. Clippers go out and get them.
Let me ask you this though: who will get a rebound for the Clippers if Zubats is gone?
Yeah, no, this season doesn't matter. And that's the hard realization that I'm throwing out there. And I know Clipper fans hate to hear it. People outside of LA don't know that there are Clipper fans. They are a passionate group of fans that love their team. And I hate to say it, but the best the team could hope for right now, honestly, is an 8 spot early round loss to the Thunder. Well, why do that? Let's flip Zubats, get a guard, plan for the future.
Who's better, them or the Lakers?
They just beat the Lakers.
I know.
For the last 12 years, they've been the better team.
No,
I think there's right this year. I think they're pretty even. I think the Clippers are a better defensive team, but you got Luka's magic, so I call them pretty even.
okay, and the Lakers have a lot of problems. It's an interesting way to put it about Zubats. You know what? You got a guy on making what 17 million, 18 million for another 2 years after this. That's a pretty valuable piece. That guy that can play
Yes,
that
indeed.
well.
Walking
And
double. You don't have to call plays for him. He's just a baller, a
to me,
dependable
yeah,
basketballer.
that makes it hard to trade. I do understand they need somebody that can hit a three. I got it, but it's just a hard thing to trade.
We'll see how it plays out. The trade deadline is always fun, but I did my part, Clipper Nation. Now let's see how it plays out. All right, that's it. You heard us. We had another shot clock violation. It's what we do. Our time is up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure to read Steve's entire 13 Rules NBA Thoughts article. We will link it below. Join us next week for more NBA Random Thoughts as we recap week number 15. We'll talk then. Thanks, Steve.
Take care.